The article was written by the author Ryan Fan.
I used to be a more fun, exciting person and live a more fun, exciting life. But in 2024, my life has been very boring. Every day, I go to work. I go to school. I run. In my free time and on weekends, I study, clean, I run even more, and I go on dates with my wife, more often at home than anywhere else. I don't do any of the novel or electric things I did in college, like go camping somewhere I never went before. I don't go to cultural events or speaking engagements at my college art center anymore. Life didn't become boring overnight. After college, I started my job as a special education teacher in Baltimore. 7 months later, COVID disrupted all our lives. I kept going on adventures and trips with my wife after we got vaccinated, the most exciting of which included visiting Amsterdam in the spring of 2022. I made other friends, including other runners, but also friends through teaching and friends through running. It seems like every year I made a series of decisions or commitments that made my life a lot more boring. In 2020, I started my master's. In 2021, I started to commit a lot more time and energy to running marathons. In 2022, I started law school. Last year, my wife and I got married, which made the commitments at home more important than the commitments outside the home. I guess I have time on my hands during this reflective period between Christmas and New Year's to realize, damn, my life really is boring. It looks boring when you think about the big picture. I am a special education teacher who is in law school at night. I run marathons. Right now, once next week comes around, I will continue my routine of going to work during the day, going to law school at night, studying during the weekend, and running whenever I can. Perhaps the only thing I do that's different from usual is listen to a new podcast every day. So much of my life focuses on long-term, incremental growth rather than electric, life-changing events. Even during this holiday, I have worked a little bit on a law journal paper, a little bit on work, written a little a day, and read a little a day. I am focused a lot on routines because I realize that what feels very difficult today can feel extremely easy the next day if I put in a small session of work, just starting the task, and I have had a major breakthrough as a runner through running a lot of miles over a long period of time. For about 6 months, I averaged around 60 miles a week of running, which built a strong aerobic base. Part of what has made me more successful in all of these major life endeavors is the ability to give consistent, sustained effort over a long period of time and maintain that focus without quitting or wavering. In this context of the daily grind and focus on daily improvement, boring is better. It's no surprise that leaving college and going into the real world 5 years ago would lead to life becoming more boring. I don't go out as much as I used to. I don't go to parties as much as I used to. I don't go out with friends as much as I used to. I used to write a lot more and explore and learn a lot as I wrote, and now I don't really have the time or capacity to write as much. My writing of late doesn't tackle big, systemic issues of the world as much as it used to, and is a bit more limited to epiphanies I have learned about daily life. There is a dissonance between how the days feel versus how the weeks or months feel in hindsight. It looks boring from the outside or in hindsight, but some of my runs have felt absolutely terrible. During the summer, I was running really slow on most of my runs in the extreme heat and humidity. I was in an excruciating amount of pain during each of these runs, but this period of malaise was a prerequisite to getting fit now. Now, there are some runs where I feel on top of the world and in the zone, like nothing can stop me. At work, there is never a dull moment, even if each moment can present very unique challenges. I often bounce from crisis to crisis. I address parent concerns all day long and do my very best that every school resource is given to make sure their child succeeds in school. In law school, I actually enjoy my readings and am writing a paper on a very contentious legal issue. Every week is a new reading on a new area of the law. Every assignment or long-term project can be a completely different exercise. Some are exams, but others are papers and others are exercises in trial-like scenarios. The point is that what seems boring, routine, and monotonous from the outside can actually be quite chaotic and dynamic on the inside. Perhaps it can be more accurate to say that my life seems boring rather than is boring. But I would not have these thoughts and would not be writing this without feeling like there was a missing element. It might seem like life's novelty often comes when we go on vacations. My wife and I just went on a trip to Sedona, Arizona, where we mainly hiked and went sightseeing as tourists to nearby places like the Grand Canyon and Page, Arizona. It was a nice break from the routine, but obviously it was a venture into fairy tale land. Sedona was a place where there were spiritual healing retreats advertised everywhere, a big focus on yoga, and beautiful red sandstone formations within a 360-degree view. There were many mountains we could drive through and hike and take scenic photos. Our daily life in Baltimore is a very different experience as a coastal city where those sights aren't quite there. I guess the concept of vacation is going somewhere you don't normally go, living somewhere you likely will never live. It's a foray into another life, and I kept thinking during the whole trip how much fun it could be to constantly go on hikes and see places like the Grand Canyon. But of course, actually living there isn't really like that. There are normal people's problems that I go through in my time, in my daily life. There is a need to work, a need to pay the bills, a need to ensure kids are doing well in school. A lot of that is going to seem boring, and yet almost everyone I know stresses and gets overwhelmed by these things, myself included. There are days when I wake up and think I don't really feel like going to work today, but know that I have to, or get overwhelmed by bills. My colleagues talk all the time about their stress in managing and finding childcare. Being a night law student, I struggle sometimes to keep up while having a full-time job, unlike a lot of students who just go to law school. The point is that leaving the boredom of daily life and the daily routines is a bit of a privilege, and you have to have the space, means, and time to do so. With 2025 coming, I do resolve to make life a little less boring and will try to find that space. There will be big changes in my life. I will have my JD in May, and we will see what life will look like after that. I think every week we might resolve to do something new. If we haven't been bowling in a very long time, maybe that's what we do. If we haven't gone swimming for a while, we could also do that. It might not be those exact activities, but the point is to venture outside the comfort zone and stop just continuing with the familiar. Given we did so much hiking this vacation, we resolved to do something active together, like hiking or swimming, at least once a month. The missing element might not come in the form of new adventures. It could mean there's something lacking in my spiritual and religious life. But just continually pushing forward with routines and the next daily task without taking time to really stop and reflect is perhaps catching up to me. Even on vacations and breaks, I sometimes really struggle with something if there's a sense that I'm not advancing or improving myself in some way. I always feel like that element needs to be there, and perhaps that's what limits how exciting or electric my fun is. This has certainly meant that I try to make sure my friendships are not just shallow, but are emotionally fulfilling instead of just small talk, but it also means that I decline a lot of activities if they cost too much money or if I don't see that self-improvement aspect. It's the reason I have completely stopped playing video games, for example, not only because I don't have the time, but there is no value in it for my long-term growth. But maybe there is a whole world out there still to be explored, even amidst the grind and monotony and routine. It won't stop overnight, but I, like you, am not getting any younger. With more time will just come more responsibilities, pets, kids, etc. This is one of the first times a New Year's resolution isn't to self-improve in some way, like becoming more athletic, getting great grades, or making some big professional accomplishment. It's time to do a bit of what we did on vacation this winter, appreciate the world's beauty, stop and think, and find new adventures. The time to make life less boring is now.